Ever walked into a friend's apartment and thought, wow, this looks like a hotel lobby? Now, here's the part nobody says out loud. That same friend has less than $1,000 in savings. Their building has a yoga studio, a dog spa, and a rooftop bar. But if their paycheck is late, they're in trouble. They're paying more in monthly rent than some people pay for their entire lives, and they're one missed paycheck away from a full-blown financial disaster. This video isn't just about rent is expensive. It's about a system that convinces young professionals to hand over $2,000 to $3,000 every month for so-called luxury living, while quietly destroying their ability to build real wealth. Let's talk about the luxury apartment trap nobody talks about. I call this the luxury apartment trap. On paper, it's just rent. In reality, it's a monthly subscription to staying broke. Let's put some simple numbers behind this so it's not just a vibe, it's math. Across the US, the average renter is paying somewhere around $1,500 to $1,600 a month for a typical apartment. That's the middle of the pack. In big coastal cities, a so-called luxury one-bedroom can easily run $2,500, $3,000, even $3,500 a month. And in places like Manhattan, new leases are averaging more than $4,600. That's not a penthouse, that's just existing. Here's why that matters. Nearly half of renters in America are what economists call cost-burdened. That means they're spending more than 30% of their income just to keep a roof over their head. For decades, the basic money rule has been simple. Keep your housing under 30% of your take-home pay. But in 2023 and 2024, millions of people are blowing straight past that line like it doesn't exist. Let me make it personal. If you're making $70,000 a year and paying $2,600 a month in rent, you're not living in the city. You're leasing your future. After taxes, that rent alone can eat close to half of what actually lands in your bank account. By the time you cover groceries, transportation, student loans, and a social life, there's almost nothing left for emergencies, investments, or big goals. And that's the quiet part no one puts in the apartment tour brochure. You're not just choosing a nicer kitchen, you're choosing to delay your first home, your freedom to change jobs, or your ability to walk away from a bad situation. You're not renting an apartment. You're renting the illusion that you're richer than you actually are. Here's the thing about luxury apartments. They don't just sell you a place to sleep. They sell you a personality upgrade. When you tour one of these buildings, they're not walking you through a one-bed, one-bath, 900 square feet. They're walking you through a curated version of the person you wish you were. You see the rooftop pool with the skyline view. You see the 24/7 gym with Pelotons and mirror walls. You see the co-working lounge with free coffee and designer chairs. You see the package concierge, the pet spa, the game room, the grills, the fire pits, the resident events. You don't just rent a unit, you join a community. And notice what they're really selling you in that moment. It's not square footage, it's a story. This is where successful, young, interesting people live. If you live here, you're one of them. The brochure doesn't show the rent line. It shows friends laughing around a fire pit, laptops open in a perfectly lit workspace, someone doing yoga on the rooftop at sunrise. It shows brunch energy, not bank account reality. And of course, social media pours gasoline on this. Instagram loves exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows a lot more than it loves a healthy checking account. A selfie in the rooftop infinity pool gets way more likes than a screenshot of your Roth IRA. So, you start to associate looking like you live well with actually being well off. The building looks like a tech startup, a spa, and a rooftop bar had a baby, and then charged you 40% of your income to visit your own kitchen. And just when you're about to hesitate because of the price, the discount tricks kick in. 2 months free if you sign today. $500 off your first month. No security deposit if you move in by the 15th. On the tour, they talk in net effective rent. In your banking app, you pay actual rent. Here's how that works in plain English. Let's say the real rent is $2,800 a month. They throw in 2 free months and average it out over the year, so they tell you, It's only 23.33 a month when you factor in the specials. Your brain hears deal. Your emotions hear I can totally afford that. What your wallet actually gets is a recurring charge of $2,800 a month once the promo period is over. And behind the scenes, this isn't random. Big landlords literally use data and pricing algorithms to nudge rents as high as people are willing to tolerate. Your special offer is engineered, not generous. They give you 2 months free so you can spend the next 10 years paying for it. Let me introduce you to Emily. Emily is 27, works in marketing at a big company in a major U.S. city, and on paper, she's doing pretty well. She makes $80,000 a year. After taxes, let's round it and say she takes home about $5,000 a month. Her rent at the luxury building? $2,600 a month. That means housing alone is eating about 52% of her take-home pay. And that's before we add everything that quietly stacks on top of that number. She's not just paying rent. She's paying for electricity, water, internet, maybe parking, and renter's insurance. By the time you roll all of that in, Emily is spending right around $2,900 a month just to exist in that building. Out of the $5,000 that lands in her account, almost $3,000 disappears just so she can wake up in a place with a nice lobby and a rooftop view. Now layer in real life. She still has to buy groceries. She wants to go out with friends once in a while. She's got a couple of streaming services, a gym membership she barely uses because there's already a gym in the building, a few subscriptions she forgot she signed up for, maybe a student loan payment, maybe a car payment, or at least a steady diet of Ubers and Lyfts. By the time the month is over, Emily might be lucky to have a couple $100s left, if she hasn't already tapped her credit card to cover the little extras that pop up. There's no real breathing room, no serious savings, no real investing, just surviving in style. On Instagram, it looks like she's thriving. Rooftop sunsets, brunch pics, city lights out the window of her living room. In her bank account, she's one flat tire or one emergency room visit away from a full-blown credit card spiral. Now let's zoom out and compare two versions of Emily's life. Scenario A, luxury life. She keeps paying $2,600 a month in rent at the luxury building. Scenario B, boring but smart. She decides to skip the hotel lobby aesthetic. She finds a solid, safe, older building for $1,600 a month. Or she gets a roommate and her share drops to around $1,300. In that boring, smart scenario, Emily is saving somewhere between $1,000 and $1,300 every single month compared to her luxury life. Over 1 year, that's $12,000 to $15,000. Over 5 years, that's $60,000 to $78,000 in pure cash she could have kept instead of handing it to her landlord. And if she didn't just sit on it, but invested that difference into a simple index fund, earning a reasonable 7 to 8% a year, you're easily looking at $70,000 to $90,000 or more with time doing its thing. That's a real down payment on a home. That's a serious investment account. That's the option to walk away from a job she hates, or to take a risk on a business, or to handle life's curveballs without panicking. The luxury building didn't just cost her nice countertops. It cost her 5 years of serious wealth building. Emily thinks she signed a 12-month lease. She didn't. She signed away future Emily's options. Let's talk about why smart people keep falling into this trap, even people who know better on paper. For a lot of young professionals, that first luxury apartment is not about shelter. It's about validation. You grew up watching shows where people in their 20s live in huge city apartments, with skyline views and brick walls, somehow on a barista salary. Fast forward, you finally make decent money. You survived internships, crappy roommates, maybe student loans. The obvious move? Prove it to yourself, to your parents, and let's be honest, to your social feed. A modest, slightly dated apartment feels like you're still in college, still figuring it out. A luxury apartment feels like, I'm officially an adult. I made it. I live here now. And then there's the shame part that nobody talks about. No one wants to admit they moved back home for a year to save money. No one wants to say, yeah, I've got a roommate at 29, even if that decision is quietly saving them thousands of dollars a year. Culturally, we treat roommates in your late 20s like failure, even though financially it's often the power move. So instead of optimizing for freedom, we optimize for optics. The lobby looks like success. Your net worth looks like a freshman year bank account. And here's where it gets even trickier: normalization. When everyone you know is paying crazy rent, crazy starts to feel normal. Your coworker is paying $2,800. Your friend from college is paying $3,200. Your favorite creator on TikTok is giving apartment tours in buildings just like yours. When nearly half of renters are officially cost burdened, it doesn't feel like a personal mistake. It feels like this is just how life is now. You stop questioning the premise. You tell yourself, at least I'm not wasting money on a car payment. Or, at least I'm not blowing money on other stupid stuff. Meanwhile, the biggest stupid expense you have is quietly auto-drafting from your account on the first of every month. If your friends are also drowning, it doesn't mean there isn't a flood. It just means you've accepted swimming in debt as the default. Here's where the luxury apartment trap stops being about nice vibes and starts messing with your actual life trajectory. Most Americans can't cover a $1,000 emergency without borrowing. Add a $2,600 rent on top of that, and every problem becomes a crisis. A flat tire, a medical bill, a layoff, even a last-minute flight to see family. None of those are just inconveniences anymore. They're potential disasters because your fixed cost of simply existing is so high. That luxury building doesn't just give you a pool. It quietly pushes back every major milestone in your life. It delays saving for a house because your down payment is disappearing into rent. It delays starting a business because you can't afford a single month without income. It delays having kids, or moving to a better city, or taking a risk on a new career path, because you are terrified of anything that might interrupt that paycheck. Your apartment becomes a kind of golden handcuffs, a velvet trap, beautiful on the outside, financially suffocating on the inside. When rent is eating 40 to 50% of your income, there is no margin. There is no oops category. So every surprise expense goes on a credit card. Then you're not just paying for your past choices in rent, you're paying interest on top of them. The trap gets tighter, and it doesn't just hit your bank account, it hits your brain. Nice lobby, constant anxiety, great view, no peace of mind. You come home to a space that looks like first class while your bank account is crammed in economy with no legroom. You're hosting your money in a luxury hotel where it never checks out. It just keeps extending its stay, one auto draft at a time. On the outside, your life looks upgraded. On the inside, your future is on pause. All right, so how do you actually get out of this without just moving into a shack and eating beans in the dark? First, a few simple rules of thumb. Rule number 1, aim to keep housing under 30% of your take-home pay. Not your salary on paper, what actually hits your bank account. If you bring home $4,000 a month, your total housing cost should be around $1,200, not $2,800. Rule number 2, if you do go above that 30% line, it should be on purpose and temporary, for a very specific reason, with a clear end date. Not just because the lobby had a pool table and the leasing agent handed you a White Claw. Rule number 3, pick the apartment that lets you save or invest at least 20% of your income. If your rent kills your savings rate, the math will eventually crush you no matter how good the view is. Now, what does that look like in real life? It might mean living with roommates for 1 to 3 more years and banking the difference. It might mean choosing a boring building in a decent area instead of the Instagram building in the hottest zip code. If you're remote, it might mean picking a slightly cheaper city instead of fighting over the same 5 overpriced neighborhoods as everyone else. And if you've already signed a painful lease, you're not doomed. Use the next 12 to 18 months as a transition plan. Build a starter emergency fund, pay down your highest interest debt, and then, when the lease is up, intentionally downgrade your rent. Not your life, your rent. You don't have to downgrade your lifestyle. You just have to stop upgrading your rent faster than your net worth. So the next time you walk into a friend's apartment that looks like a hotel lobby, remember the fanciest building doesn't always belong to the richest person. Sometimes it belongs to the most leveraged one. You get to choose who you are, the person with the perfect lobby and an empty savings account, or the person with a normal apartment and a very abnormal bank balance. Luxury is not marble countertops. Luxury is not panicking on the first of the month. In the long run, the real flex isn't the rooftop pool, it's freedom. If you're stuck in the luxury apartment trap, or you know someone who is, share this with them. And if you want me to break down the next financial trap no one talks about, hit subscribe. This is the Finance Briefing,